Hello, welcome back to another Mindfulness Monday. I am Amira Stanley. I'm an intention coach, mindfulness coach, end of life doula, and anti racism student. And welcome. Today, I want to ask a question. How do you love people through trauma? I have found that most people don't even realize that they even have trauma, right? Even for me, I thought because I didn't have the type of trauma that other people have that I never had trauma. When I even heard that I had trauma, it's like nothing major ever happened to me growing up. But lack of emotional skill is a form of trauma. When things happen to you and you're this little tiny empath child and emotional things happen and you don't know what to do with them and you're not really taught the skills to deal with like difficult situations in a real way that's effective for you, that's a form of trauma. And so when you have relationships with people, you may not recognize that when you're in a conflict situation that you're dealing with a situation where they're speaking through a lens of trauma. And when you are speaking through a lens of trauma, you see everything as a threat. You see everything as a put down. You see everything as a wound. I remember when my husband and I first met. Oh man, I was in full effect check a chick queen mode back then, and he and I did not communicate well. When we would have an argument, I would leave immediately, and then when I would leave, he would send me these long text messages, and because when I would be physically there trying to get him to talk, he would physically shut down, not speak. That would make me mad, and I'd say, okay, if you don't want to talk, I'm leaving. So I would always leave, and then when I leave, that would upset him, so then he'd leave me this long thing, and then I'd be like, wait, I don't understand, and what? It was so confusing. And it was like beating my head against the wall, because even though we had actual situations and actual problems in our relationship because of both of us, a lot of what he felt of just me and my normal personality, that was through a trauma lens. So yeah, we have really real situations that are happening in our relationship, but a lot of it we're seeing through trauma lenses, right? So it's really important to speak about trauma and speak about these uncomfortable topics, I feel, so that we could move through life in a way that makes us most fulfilled. Because that's, at the end of the day, I feel that is what mindfulness is all about. It gives you the tools you need so that you can just have a life that is without more suffering than you need. And when I say more suffering, I'm saying added extra things on top. Okay? You guys hear me talk about this all the time about we have factual situations, but the things we say to ourselves, it's adding on top and it's making us suffer, right? For longer periods of time. We don't have to suffer for 3 weeks. We could acknowledge the thing without adding all the extra things that make us feel like crap, right? It's really hard to recognize that though when you're in relationships with people that you care about. It's really hard. And I remember the first time that I really held a boundary was with one of my foster sisters. When I was a kid, from age 12 to 18, my parents were foster parents. And so I had about 12 foster sisters and brothers. And there was a couple that stayed around for a long time, like they stayed a part of the family. And the main one that stayed a part of the family was the very first person in my adult life that I ever had to hold a boundary with. Or as I started, I was in therapy at this time around 2014, 15, something like that. And she was the very first person that I started to hold boundaries with. in a healthy way, not just the check a chick queen boundary cussing people out, but like genuinely saying, if you don't change the way you treat me, I'm going to be done with you. That type of boundary. And that was really hard. Even people in my own family were like, whoa, that's your sister, dude. Like, how can you just like kick her to the curb? I had to. Because most of the time, this particular sister, she dealt with me through eyes of trauma. She projected things onto me that were not mine to feel. And I could no longer allow those things to happen. And so, putting boundaries in place, they were not able to do the things I needed emotionally and spiritually for myself. So I had to do the things, and I had to remove myself. And I no longer talk to this person at all and will not. And it doesn't mean in the future, if their life changes or something, it doesn't mean that I won't speak to them. But now, as the person they are, and from what I hear, up until even last year, they're still this, they have the same mind frame and the same projection. That seems really harsh to people, but it's my boundary, right? And the same thing with current relationships and friendships. And even I've had people that were just kind of Facebook friends, we don't know each other really well, that have said like, wow, when you say that or that seems like that doesn't align with what you say you want. You're about community, you're about loving all. Like, that sounds very judgmental, how harsh you are. But I get to decide the type of boundary that I get to set, right? We get to all decide. And that's the beauty of life and of boundaries and of your own growth and where you want to go. So for someone else, me setting a boundary and saying, these are the type of people that I want in my life, or me saying, in order to grow, you need to have a certain type of person in your circle. For me, because I'm a healer, I need people in my life, in my personal space, that are not looking at life through eyes of trauma all the time. When it comes to conflict, I know conflict is uncomfortable, but when I'm in a conflict situation and I'm trying to deal with conflict, and what I get back from the person is, you did this to me, you did that to me, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and I'm trying to actually have a tangible conversation about how to fix a problem or an issue, and all I get back is, you did this to me, you did that to me, look at you, what you did, oh, look at you. That's usually a sign of like dealing with somebody through eyes of trauma.